Okay, well, everyone, we are now live, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. We do like to start right on time, don't we, Judge? And
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm Stephen Rispley. I'm the Assistant Dean for Student Affairs and Pro Bono Programs at Baylor Law. Today, I welcome you to the Complete Lawyer Significance and Service. This program grew out of our leadership class, Leadership Engagement Development, and is also part of our professional development program, which was created to discuss the practicalities of the practice of law and expose students to fantastic lawyers like the three that we have joining today. The leadership program that we have at Baylor Law is part of a national growing movement to be more intentional in our preparation of law students for the important leadership roles we know that they will hold upon entering our noble profession. This discussion is part of an ongoing series at Baylor Law about the lawyer as leader. In 2014, Ben Heineman, William Lee, and David Wilkins published an article for the Harvard Law School Center on the Legal Profession titled Lawyers as Professionals and as Citizens, Key Roles and Responsibilities in the 21st Century. In that article, they detail that lawyers should be technical experts, wise counselors, and effective leaders. We agree, and we also add that lawyers should also have an overlay of ethics in everything they do, that character and integrity is something they must possess to effectively advocate for their clients and communities. This is what we mean by complete lawyers, lawyers using their talents and expertise to help others. We believe this service leads to significance, both for the communities and ourselves. As we understand more about the importance of wellness in our professional lives, we firmly believe that service is a key component to leading a satisfied and significant career, no matter what career path a lawyer may choose. So law schools are now embracing the need to better prepare our students, not just as lawyers, but as lawyer leaders who are ready, willing, and able to serve not only their clients, but their communities. So thank you for joining us this week. I'm not going to waste precious time with these three incredible folks with extensive introductions. You can see all their accomplishments and accolades. We're going to drop some links into the chat so that you can see those. But I did want to mention a few things about each one. I'm going to start with Judge Laura Livingston, and I'll explain more why in a minute. She is a UCLA School of Law grad, but we have adopted her as a Baylor lawyer, as we have also adopted, if they will let us, Harry Myers and Betty Bailey Torres. So hope that y'all are okay with being adopted in this call. But Judge Livingston is also the 261st District Court judge in Travis County. She is active in local, state, and national bar associations. She has served in a host of roles to the ABA, with the ABA. One that will be important later for our purposes here is that she was chair of the Commission on Interest for Lawyers Trust Accounts, and she was chair of the Committee on Delivery of Legal Services and a member of the Commission on Future Legal Services, which released a report in 2016 that was really eye-opening for a lot of us here at Baylor. She was recipient, done a lot of things and has received a lot of awards for the things that she has done, but one that was recent is the ABA Spirit of Excellence Award, which she received in 2020 and is so deserving. She's also served on the Baylor Academy of the Advocate St. Andrews faculty and regularly judges our mock trial competition. So we appreciate you taking our call, or still taking our call, I guess I should say. I'm also happy to introduce Harry Myers, who probably needs no introduction, but I'm going to do so anyway. She's a partner at Locke Lord in Dallas, and she has served in the administration of President George W. Bush, is staff secretary, deputy chief of staff for policy, and counsel for the president. But that is not, but service has been a theme throughout Ms. Myers' career. In 1985, she was the first woman president of the Dallas Bar Association. In 1989, she served as an at-large member of Dallas City Council. She was then invited to run for the State Bar of Texas and was elected in 1992 as the first woman president of the State Bar of Texas. She is also on the Leaders Council of the Legal Services Corporation, which is a 501c3 that promotes equal access to justice and provides grants for high-quality civil legal assistance to low-income Americans. When access to justice initiatives are considered, Harriet Myers is usually one of the folks making it happen. She's received countless awards for her service and was recently honored as an outstanding 50-year attorney by the Texas Bar Foundation. Betty Bailly Torres has served as the executive director of Texas Access to Justice Foundation, which is the largest Texas-based funder for legal services to the poor. And she's served in that role since 2001. She has dedicated her life to public interest work. She started as a staff attorney at Legal Aid of Central Texas in Austin and has held various service and administrative public interest positions since then. You can say that she has dedicated her life to improving the lives of Texans through legal services. She is immediate past president of the National Association of IOLTA programs and has served in many volunteer capacities to programs that support national access to justice efforts. Like Judge Livingston and Harriet Miers, when we need to improve our access to justice, Betty is there, making the lives of Americans better by increasing access to justice. As I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, we have, this is part of the professional development program, but we also have lots of others joining us. This program, we obtained approval of this program for 1 hour of ethics credit from the Texas Continuing Legal Education. And later on in the chat, we'll be dropping the instructions on CLE there. We also encourage you to use the chat feature to send us your questions. So please use that and we will take those up as they come. But for now, it is my honor and personal privilege to welcome these three to this panel. Each is a shining exemplar of what a talented, motivated attorney can do to better the lives of those in their communities. So now that I've given a more extensive introduction than I think our panelists would have hoped that I did, I'm going to turn it over to Judge Livingston. When we started to put this panel together, we called Judge Livingston and asked for her thoughts, and she immediately thought of Harriet Miers and Betty Bailly Torres. So, Judge, how did you meet these two incredible individuals, and how did all of you get to know each other?
Well, it's been my honor to know both of these incredible lawyers for a very long time. I first met Betty when we worked together at Legal Aid, and we have been in the trenches, as it were, working on behalf of low-income Texans since those early days at Legal Aid. I was on the board of the Texas Access to Justice Foundation when Betty became one of our staff members there. So our paths crossed once again when she went to TJEF. I was on that board at the time. And so when her name came across our desk as a board, it was a pretty easy call for me to make to offer her up as, I thought, the best candidate for the position that she was applying for. And then she ultimately became the executive director and has served in that role for a long time. So we go way back, as they say, in the legal services community. The incredible Harriet Miers I first met when she was president of the State Bar of Texas. But the thing that I remember most about my early days as an admirer of Harriet Miers is that when she was president of the State Bar, we were together at an American Bar Association annual conference in San Francisco. I was there, some other younger lawyers were there, and Harriet Miers, who at that time was not only president of the State Bar, but also a rising star and a partner at a gigantic law firm, a mover, a shaker, a leader, and just an all-around incredible person, took time out to take us to dinner, just a couple of us, an intimate conversation about leadership, about service, about what was going on in the world at that time, and about how to make a difference in someone else's life. She's quiet spoken, and yet, as they say with some of those folks who speak with a big stick, she never hits anybody with a stick, but she has the power one imagines that could be wielded by somebody with a big stick. She is somebody who can get the job done when the job needs to be done well and with a sense of grace and excellence. So it's been my great pleasure and privilege to know both of these movers and shakers for many, many years. And I'm proud and honored to be on this panel with them and with you, Professor.
Thanks.
Stephen, could I add how I'm to what Judge Livingston said about when we first met? When we first met, I was a baby lawyer, and Judge Livingston was my mentor. It was only years later that I realized that she was only a 2-year lawyer. Because she already had that leadership, she already had that aura, she already knew what was going on all the time, that I did not realize that she was just about the same age I was, that she was a little more experienced, because she's in any room she goes into, she's a leader. And it was immediate. I knew it then. I just didn't realize that we were just really that close in years of experience.
And this is the
Absolutely.
first time. This is the first time I've realized that she does have a little touch of ability to exaggerate.
Everything I said about you is true, my dear.
Great stuff.
The kind
Ms. Myers, we both of our other panelists have already said so many incredible things about you and your service, your life of service. Did you have a sense of purpose when you started the practice of law, and how did you find that, I guess is my question. I mean, such a distinguished career, and you're still doing all these incredible things. So how did you find it, and how did you get started down that path?
Well, I'm very humbled by the comments that have been made, of course, and it's a delight and honor to be with this panel. These are very special people that I see making a difference every day. So it's great to be here. I pretty much like every young lawyer, you don't know what you're going to do with your law degree. And yet we tell our young people, and it's totally true, this is an empowering position that you have to become a lawyer. So my first 2 years in practice actually were with a federal judge who was an incredible mentor and demonstrated professionalism himself, because he was a federal judge, but he took time to be on rules committees and to work with the Supreme Court of the United States in terms of trying to improve the justice system. So he was a great role model for me. He worked really hard. And if there was anything that was drilled into me was this is a great profession, but it requires a lot of hard work if you are going to do it the way you need to do it. And so after clerking, I then went to the law firm. And your activities as a law clerk are somewhat limited, although I was, again, fortunate enough to be in the same courthouse with Judge Higginbotham and Judge Buckmeyer and Bob Hill and these wonderful people who were incredible role models. And I have to mention, of course, Judge Sarah G. Hughes. So we, as clerks, got to see these incredible people, but all of them were role models for realizing that you just have to work hard. And they did. And then in practice, when I started with the law firm, I think, again, it's role models help. And I was surrounded by people that had interest in the community, interest in the profession, and they were encouraging of you to also be involved in both legally related activities like the antitrust section or something that furthered your skills, but particularly things like the Legal Services Corporation, which was fledgling at that point, like so many of the community groups that tried to address the needs of those that were less fortunate. So just having great role models certainly helped me focus on what we can do with this incredible license that we all have.
Well, that your mention of role models does make me think of the role that law school can play, and for Judge Livingston and for Betty Baitoras. How did y'all started at Legal Aid? You started your careers there. So how did you find that in law school? Did you have some experiences at law school that made you think about these sort of things and made you think about sort of this complete lawyer idea that we've talked about? What were the discussions about the role of lawyer in society? So what role did law school play?
Well, for me, law school meant it was sort of an introduction to what was possible. I knew when I applied to law school that I wanted to be the voice of those who were voiceless, right? That was the whole point. I wanted to be a lawyer so that I could work and represent folks who really couldn't speak for themselves. And for me, that meant people that were living in poverty. That's always been what's motivated me to be a lawyer, to be at legal aid, to be in private practice, to have an active pro bono practice, and to be a judge, frankly. And it's why I do all of the Bar Association work and the access to justice work is all centered around trying to improve the lives of others. And so that started pretty early on for me. And at law school, like the law students that are listening in, we did moot court and all that other stuff. But when I was coming along, the Public Interest Law Foundation was brand new. It was just getting started. And so this seed was planted in my mind at that time about what it meant to actually make a living at working on something that would benefit someone else. And so the notion of being a public interest lawyer and using your law license for all of the good that could be done in the public's interest was really where I that took hold for me, if you will. And mentors played a very significant role in working on those projects. We had faculty mentors at the law school that were willing to work with us and teach us about what it meant to be a good public interest lawyer. We were able to be exposed at our law school in terms of looking and figuring out what was possible. So we learned about all the different kinds of legal jobs. Not everybody can be Perry Mason and go in and be the best litigator ever. I know that's what you produce at Baylor, but not everybody is going to be Perry Mason. And so there are transactional lawyers that make a difference. There are lawyers that work for senators and presidents and others. There are lawyers working in the Interior Department. There are lawyers that work on healthcare issues. There are lawyers that do everything, and being exposed in law school to all that is possible, public policy, specific kinds of legal policy, substantive areas. It was all opening up for me as a law student, and my law school education really was significant in opening my eyes to what was possible, and the support that the law school provided in not only exposing us to those things, but encouraging us to find our passion, to find what we love, and to do that as a career was a perfect match for me.
So I was completely unlike Judge Livingston, which was I had absolutely no clue. First of all, what I was doing in law school. I think in some ways I was really young when I entered law school. I was 19, and I was still in many ways searching for my path. And I was in law school for a couple of years, and I didn't like law school. I didn't understand law school. I didn't understand what we were learning. I was getting through law school, but I didn't really understand where's my place here? Where do I belong? And it was, it came one day. I signed up for a clinic, a family law clinic. And so it was, first day, you do your class, and then they send you over to the legal aid, which is where I ultimately went and worked. And the moment I walked in, the moment I met all of the incredible lawyers at legal aid, some of the names you may never have heard of, but the Fred Fuchs of the world, who are just these incredible lawyers, experts in their field. The moment I did that, I knew why I was in law school. And I knew that this is what I would do the rest of my life. I mean, I just knew it. It was an aha moment. And you rarely have those, but that's what happened to me. And so really, law school gave me that. Up until that moment, I didn't realize that everything I'd been learning, there really was a purpose to it. And then I'm through that, when I decided, well, of course I'm going to be a legal aid lawyer because this is what I've got to do with the rest of my life. I didn't realize then that it's really hard to get a legal aid job. And at that time, I applied because that's what I was going to go do for the rest of my life. And I had youth and ignorance on my side. And when I got the job, I was later told that 125 other people had applied for that same position. And so I look back and again go, thank goodness I didn't know that then. But what I think is kind of important about law school is that that some of the people that are going to make a difference for you are in law school and some are not. Some are the Judge Livingston and Fred Fuchs and others where you go and they're the people who you go, these are my mentors, kind of this is my tribe, so to speak. And so you can find mentors where you're at in the law school, the Stephen Rispoli's of the world, and you can find them outside of law school as well when you start looking at whether it's a clerkship. You heard Harriet talk about the incredible mentors for her. So there is, law school is more than the brick and mortar of the place itself. It really is, you learn to be a lawyer kind of with so many others outside.
Stephen, we got a question in the chat about mentors, suggestions on how to find them, what to expect in the relationships. And that is a great question. And if I might, I want to say a couple things about that. One, ask. I mean, that's the first thing. You will be surprised at the people who will just be humbled and honored and flattered that you asked. They're not going to ask you, hey, do you need a mentor today? Right? That's not going to happen. But if you ask them, that I think is the first step. The other thing I would say to you is that before you ask, you need to be prepared to answer this question. Why me? Why do you want me to be your mentor? What are you hoping to get out of this relationship, right? You can't just walk up to somebody and say, Professor Rispoli, would you be my mentor? And then he just, is so bowled over with flattery that he says, yes. Well, he's going to be flattered, but he's also going to want to know what your expectations are of him. What do you want to get out of the relationship? Why him as opposed to Professor Powell or, Dean Tobin or someone else, right? So you have to be prepared to answer the question of why that mentor? What are your expectations? The other thing I think you should be prepared for is something that I've been doing lately when I'm asked to be someone's mentor. It's thrown off the mentee every single time. But here's my question. Well, I'll agree to be your mentor on one condition. And they say, what's that? And I say, the condition is that you have to be my mentor too. And they are thrown off by that every time. And they go like, well, what could I teach you? And I say, I don't know. Maybe it's how to make a great souffle. Maybe it's, how to cook salmon better. I have no idea what I can learn from you. But if you're not willing to teach me anything, I don't know why I should be willing to teach you anything. It's got to be a two-way street, because I guarantee you, if you learn something from me, I'm going to learn something from you. And that's the best kind of relationship there is. So be prepared to ask, why me? And what can you bring to this relationship? And if you find someone willing to work with you under those conditions, I think your mentor-mentee relationship will be very successful.
I would just add that go and volunteer where you think you have an interest, and you'll find people and meet people that will most likely be happy to help you, whether it's Big Brothers Big Sisters or the legal services program, whatever it is. Just go and be active. One of the great things about having a law license is that because you have a license, people automatically respect you. And if you get around an organization, you're going to have almost an automatic recognition that you have something to give. And then you'll meet not just lawyers, you'll meet other people in the community who have the same interests that you're pursuing. And those are mentors. And maybe they turn out to be very high up in a corporation someday, or able to assist you or become lifelong friends. And mutual interests in good things result in lifelong friends and great mentors around a firm, around a corporation. There are always people who are going to want to help someone who's younger and following the path that just a few years ago they were following. So I think it's searching out people and and letting them see what it is that you're interested in.
Well, I have to agree with both of those thoughts. And the other thing is, for me, and you could probably tell by my previous answer, is also, and this is something that Harriet Myers alluded to, is go to your passion. And because that's where you're going to be centered. And that's where you're going to be happy, and you're going to find people who can help you with kind of your passion and where it is you want to be. When I started this job, the very first thing I did was ask, where's the best program in the country? Where are they doing the best work? And I quickly found out where that was. And I picked up the phone. At that time, I didn't know the director. And I said, I'm so-and-so, I'm new here and I want to come visit I'd like to come visit you and I'd like to learn from you. And people are very generous. It's back to what Judge Livingston said. If you give them the reason, which is, I want to improve access to justice here in Texas, and I know I can do that if I have great mentors. And just coincidentally, a few minutes ago, this person who's long since retired called me to visit about an issue where I'm now a mentor to him. And that's part of what happens again with mentorship. It really does become a two-way street. All of us have a lot to learn from all of you that are on here. I'm a mentor for a student here down at UT down the street. I learned so much from her. I mean, it's just amazing how much you learn. And that's true of most interactions. So definitely, for me, it's about passion.
And I think that's a great segue into touching on some points that y'all have mentioned earlier about how important it is to get involved in the community. For students and young lawyers that do want to get involved and do want to find the right, way to do it, do you have any tips or advice on how to find the right organization or how to find the right opportunity? What should they be looking for in getting out there and getting involved?
Well, I think Betty hit on it when she said, find something that you're passionate about, right? Find something that you're interested in, find a cause you can get behind and volunteer. To me, much of my involvement has always still starts with volunteerism. I'm volunteering constantly to do things that I'm interested in and passionate about. And I think that's where it starts. You will find no shortage of people who want to use your talent and expertise and your good ideas. But I think you have to be a bit discerning about that, because you'll get a lot of invitations, especially as you, start to show your stuff after that Baylor law degree, hangs on the wall. They're going to know right away that you're brilliant. And so they're going to come to you and they're going to try to spread you pretty thinly. You've got to be discerning so that you pick something that's of interest to you, that you're passionate about, and something in which you think you can really make a difference. What talent, what skill are they looking for? Do you have it? Is it a good fit? Will it be fun? Will it be enjoyable? Some of the volunteer relationships and activities that I've been involved in when I was in private practice, some of those led to business referrals. But I didn't do them for that reason. I did them because I was interested in it. It was a passion of mine, and they were doing work that I could be proud of. So I would say at the outset, find an activity, join a group that you are interested in, you're passionate about the work they're doing, and the work that they're doing is meaningful to you in some way.
And I would say, agree with everything that the judge has said. But I would say, learn how to say yes. When someone asks you to be involved in something, if you can say yes, it's something that you think you could be involved in or learn more about. It's important to be willing to give some time and see what it's like. And it may be a great surprise to you that it's something that is a lifelong passion for you. And in terms of getting to know someone involved in a particular area, around you, there are people who are involved in different things. And I think it's really good to ask your more senior lawyers or your friends or neighbors or whoever might know who are a little more advanced in their careers. Just ask them, who do you know that's on the board of Goodwill or works in one of the medical foundations or something like that? And is there someone you could introduce me to that I might be able to contribute to that particular interest? So I wouldn't be bashful about asking people who might know people to help you get introduced, and they'll give you a great recommendation and a encouragement to the person they're calling. Why don't you try to get this person involved? They'll be great.
Volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. I really, it goes back to centering yourself. It's not only do you learn new skill sets, I mean, Harriet's just right, learn to say yes, because you'll end up doing things you might not have thought were kind of something that would become a passion, but you make lifelong friends. You really do through kind of your volunteer service work. You also meet new colleagues that, like in my case, it was never about client business, right? Because I've done an my career's been access to justice, but I might meet someone who can help better support a program for veterans who need legal aid through that work. And so you connect again in ways that feed you, because to me that's the most important thing. In the end, there's only so many hours in a day, and so you do want to use them so that you're fed, but at the same time you will find that if you volunteer for most efforts, that you're better off in so many ways that you would not have imagined. I know that I have been surprised at how much better I am at my job, and I am personally, because of all the various volunteer efforts through the years.
One thing I think we all should emphasize is you don't start at the top. You go in and do something maybe even menial. I remember the Goals for Dallas and the Goals for Dallas Bar programs, and we had people like in Betty and the judge might know Mary Murphy, who started out. I remember when Mary was first volunteering to carry typewriters around and get supplies ready for these programs that were being conducted to create goals for the Dallas Bar, for example. And that's how she started. And she wound up the administrative judge over all of Dallas County and doing a bunch of other wonderful things. And so you can't say, well, I'm going to go in and start at the top. You got to work your way up.
She's fantastic. That's great.
That relates, everything that y'all have just said relates to another point that I wanted each of you to touch upon, which is how do you balance all these things? I mean, the learning to say yes and the finding the organization that you want and all of those great things. How do, what advice do you have for young lawyers in juggling all that? I mean, we haven't even talked about a couple of other important subjects like, your family and your friends and, your personal wellness and all those sorts of things. So how do you balance all those things?
I was chuckling when Harriet just mentioned about learning to say yes, because I thought to myself, well, in a minute, I'm just going to contradict that when we get to the wellness question that I was sure you were going to ask when I say, be sure you learn to say no, because you have to do both, right? That's the whole thing about discernment. You have to know when to say yes and say yes when yes is the right answer. But when it comes to your home life balance and your work life balance and your ability to have kids and spend quality time with them and take care of your kids and your parents at the same time, which some of you may have to do in the future, you will have to balance home life with work life. And at some point, you have to also discern and learn when to say no. The trick is to know when to do that, right? Know when to say yes and say yes when it's appropriate. Know when to say not now, maybe later, right? Because now is not the best time for me to be able to give you 100%. I can maybe do that a year from now. I'll tell you a quick story about that. I was on the board of an organization in Austin related to my faith life and my spiritual life. And I was, excited about the work and I was interested in the work. And I got a call from someone asking me to join another board that was also related to kind of good work in the community, but we had a connection through our faith community. And I said to this guy, well, I'm on this other board and it's a 3-year assignment. And so, maybe when that board service is over, I'll think about it. When I tell you that I got off board 1, within a week, this guy called me and said, I understand your term is up. I'm ready for you to go on this board now. And of course, at that point, I had to say yes, because, he waited for me for 3 years. So you have to know when to say maybe later, not now, in order to make sure that you can appreciate that home life, work life balance, because that's really important. Wellness is really important. Here's my other quick example about that. When you're flying on an airplane, what do they tell you, right? Put the yellow mask on first, and then you can help other people. So I just tell all the people all the time, you have to put your yellow mask on first. If you're not healthy and well, you can't help others. So those are my 2 suggestions on that. Learn when to say yes, learn when to say no, learn when to say later, see me in 3 years, and put your yellow mask on first.
Ms. Myers, how do you balance this, especially in firms that have billable hour requirements? What advice do you have about, as a young lawyer, trying to juggle the billable hour and service and regular work, as well as everything else that we've talked about? How would you help them get started on that?
I think it's tough, but it's doable. And it's also an observation I've had that there's a season. Sometimes when you're first in practice, you get involved in litigation or transactional work, and they're intense times. And during those intense times, you're not able to do as much beyond the work that you're doing. But there will be others when you have more time, and you should take it to make sure that you're contributing both to the profession as well as the community in a meaningful way, because it's going to make you happier. One of the things about squeezing in community work or some bar association work is that they really bring a lot of joy a lot of times. And some of it's hard work, some of it's, though, quite enjoyable. And you meet a lot of great friends and have a really good time. So it takes a little bit of the edge off of constantly being required to work hard on your otherwise legal work. But I think everybody would tell you your legal work has to come first. You're a lawyer first. So you can take on too much work at work. So you need to be balanced in making sure that you're doing the best you can to do what a firm or corporation requires, a job that's not of that nature, like Betty. I'm so delighted to see us focus on her today, because she's not a judge, and she's not someone like myself that has had roles that resulted in people knowing who I was. Everybody should know who Betty is because of the phenomenal leadership and work that she does, and saving lives, even in the providing of direly needed legal interventions. I mean, that she helps fund. I mean, it is a lifetime of service that is, I'm sure, rewarding to her, but we owe her a great debt of gratitude.
Here, here.
Thank you.
So that is actually a pretty good transition, because I do want to shift the program a little bit to access to justice with three folks who are so respected and high profile in the access to justice world. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about access to justice. Of course, it's we hear frequently both in legal publications and elsewhere that we have an access to justice gap in the country. And, sometimes that definition is nebulous. And when you ask people, what does that mean? It's a little bit harder to get granular. So, Betty, with all of your work, can you help explain to us what, or, to law students and young lawyers that are on this, what the access to justice gap is and what the access to justice issues are just globally? And then we'll talk about some other things, but just help us set the stage for what this is.
Yeah, I mean, access to justice, that's huge. And it does, people use the term and we all mean different things. I think when we say it, I saw a definition recently that I really like, and I think really kind of covers it. And that's a fair chance to be heard, to have your rights secured, and to obtain the law's protection. And I think, to me, that is really a good definition. So many times when we talk about access to justice, we're really talking about the ability of people to be heard in court and to have their legal rights protected. And regrettably, we're in a situation where, for the most part, it doesn't happen for most Americans. And I'm going to give you numbers just in Texas so you can have an idea. Our foundation had a study conducted by UTSA, and that study shows that only 10% of the civil legal needs of poor Texans are being met. So think about that. If only 10% of civil legal needs are being met, and that's with pro bono, that's with legal aid, that's with people who can afford to hire a lawyer, and most can't if they're poor, that means 90% of people's needs aren't being met. And as I think about this, that's not just a gap, it's just really a breakdown in our system, because the majority of people who do have a legal need, and if they're poor, it is not met. And what has happened, and Judge Livingston probably can talk more about this piece, is that is becoming true not just of low-income people, but really middle America, people who are just on the other side of it. So for a family of four to qualify for legal aid, they have to earn less than $33,000. That's a family of four, less than $33,000 a year. Well, because you earn $33,002, you don't qualify. You still can't afford that lawyer. So the statistics that I'm giving you in terms of access are dire. And so when we talk about access to justice, we're really talking about how, for us, trying to solve the problem, how do we ensure that everyone is able to go to our courts, that everyone is able to have their rights vindicated? And we're talking about victims of domestic violence, people who are being evicted. And right now, as we all know, there's going to be a tsunami of evictions. We're talking about veterans who are trying to get benefits, kids who need special education services, and the list goes on and on. And so the reality is that the situation is dire, and we have a system that we've created that doesn't work for this entire group. So really, for us and you as bright young lawyers coming out, is trying to figure out what are the things that we can do to ensure that there is this access. And some of it is huge, like we need substantially more resources and Harriet Myers and Judge Livingston have spent many a day working on resource issues. And also we have to look at, are there things we need to change in the legal system so that those people who cannot access it now are able to access it?
Wonderful. Thank you for, just helping shape this conversation. So now, all of you really are experts in this area through your work with the ABA or the Legal Services Corporation. Ms. Myers, Judge Livingston, how do you see, with the great need that Betty just described, how do we solve it? What are some ways that we can do something about the access justice gap? What is our responsibility as lawyers to do something about the access justice gap?
I'll defer to Harriet on this one.
One thing I just want to say so that I don't forget it is that if you ask a bunch of lawyers to tell you what about their practice do they recall as their most meaningful case, or their most a case that had a great deal of satisfaction that they were involved in, and just almost invariably there might be more than one mentioned, but one will be a pro bono case that really helped someone that otherwise would go without legal services. So I want to give a great big plug for volunteering to do pro bono work. It's satisfaction beyond words. I think any of us that have had those cases know what kind of feeling it is to be involved in helping someone who otherwise would not have seen justice. And so pro bono is huge. It cannot solve the problem, though. The needs are too great, as Betty so aptly described. So we need to look at funding, as she mentioned, and that's a never-ending challenge. We're making progress, but we need to make more. That means storming the doors of our federal legislators and state legislators, and working with, particularly here in Texas, we had amazing results working with the Attorney General's office to create a program really that would allow funds from lawsuits that otherwise are going to not be distributed for the use in solving the access to justice need. So just I think looking also for ways that you can solve issues that exist that create legal needs that can be solved easily through systemic changes. And the best example of that is for Texas, because it's easy to explain and understand, and that is the creation of a deed that you can pass property to whoever you want it to go to when you pass, without actually having to have a will or letting the property go intestate. So those deeds mean that you don't have properties that fall into disrepair once someone dies, because there are heirs there through that deed that will have the property and be able to preserve it. So that is just one example, and there are very many of systemic solutions that help people. And then you have to have the clinics to expose people to what those remedies are and how they ought to use them, and make sure that the population that needs to use them knows that they exist. So the access issues are incredibly many. We just saw today a report of direction from the Justice Department that interpreters need to be provided to those who do not speak uh, English, so that you no longer will see people going into court bewildered, because not only do they don't know what's happening in the court, they don't even know what the language means. So they're trying to solve issues like that are constant. And Betty and the commission that is the Access to Justice Commission here in our state, and those around the nation really are looking all the time at what can be done to eliminate legal issues before they come about, like with that deed, but also increase the number of people who can have lawyers through pro bono or through other funded devices. And certainly funding the Legal Services Corporation, which is the backbone of our delivery of legal services to the poor in our nation. They help pro bono lawyers serve. They provide direct services. They are on top of the laws. They're amazing. So adequately funding Legal Services Corporation, maintaining that backbone is essential.
That's a fantastic answer. And the one that Betty gave is, I echo as well. I would just add a couple of things. I think we might all agree that the way we've always done it is not working. So the way we've always done it has to be re-examined, re-evaluated, and perhaps changed. We've seen some of that change come about because, you know, when I graduated law school, there was not a single court anywhere in this country that I'm aware of that had a self-help center. And now many, many courts across the country have self-help centers, some form or fashion of one in their communities. That is the kind of sea change that we will need to make in lots of different areas. This notion of passing property in this unique way with this deed on death, that's an innovation that was not available until very recently. We have to continue innovating. We have to continue to re-examine and be creative and try to find solutions to problems that are complex, to be sure, but are not unsolvable, right? We just have to be willing to make some changes and to rethink things. Why do we do X, Y, Z? Why does it have to be in triplicate? Why does it have to be on purple paper, right? I don't know why purple paper is special, but purple paper is required for some reason. Well, let's maybe change that, right? Let's figure out things that can be done in a new and different way that's more efficient, that's more reasonable, more rational, less expensive, right? Betty talked about that breakdown in our system, because gap is just an inadequate word to describe it. And she's absolutely right. 90% is not a gap. That's just annihilation of a system that's supposed to protect us all. Well, it's not. Most young associates at law firms cannot afford to hire their own law firm to represent them. Most lawyers in private practice, in whatever practice setting, most lawyers cannot afford to hire their peers to represent them in any kind of legal action. So that, it seems to me, is a cry for help that something's not right. Now, some have argued that lawyers have priced themselves out of the market. I don't know whether that's true or not, because somebody's paying those first-year associates coming out of law school a couple $100,000, right? Somebody's paying somewhere. So the market is bearing something. But what's not happening is that your neighbors, the everyday people in the world, that 90% that need lawyers, that need legal assistance but can't afford it, something's wrong with that kind of a system. And so we have to figure out how to dismantle what doesn't work and create something new and different that does work. And that means looking at substantive areas of the law, like in the case of the real estate example you just heard. But that also means that looking at the rules of procedure, looking at discovery rules, looking at a simple, there are child support. Do you have to go to court to figure out how to do the math to figure out what your income is and how much child support you have based on how many kids you have? Could that be handled administratively in a less expensive way that's pretty formulaic? Or do you have to really come and make that part of a big lawsuit where people get sued over doing the right thing by supporting their own children? You know, there are a million things that we could point to look at new and different ways to accomplish the goals. But it's hard work, it's complex, and it's difficult sometimes to initiate change within a profession that is so want to remain the same. So we have a challenge as a profession to clean house. And I say we get busy with the broom and the mop because it needs some cleaning out.
Well, you know who does a lot of that cleaning out are young lawyers. And I'm not saying this because you are law students, but the foundation funds Equal Justice Works Fellows. And fellows come in with projects on different issues, including medical legal partnerships, including self-help. And they take to the legal aid program an innovative idea that they want to explore for a couple of years. And that is funded through the program, through EJW, through the foundation. And we've had more great ideas coming from those young fellows who come in and are asking, why the purple paper? Because they're not used to the purple paper. It means nothing to them. And so those of you who are thinking about, well, how can I enter, public service world on a 2-year commitment, because that's what most fellowships are, that's a way to do it. And also do some of this problem solving, because almost by definition, you're not wedded to this system. The rest of us, this is the system we've grown up with. So sometimes it's harder to see, but you're not wedded to it. And so creating your own fellowship in a legal services program on a 2-year commitment seems to me like an ideal way of kind of looking at a problem and trying to be a part of a team solving it.
So well said. So there are so many topics that I would love to cover with all of you because there's so much good stuff here, but we're getting short on time. So I wanted to ask one more question and it to be sort of a lightning round question, which is, is the other thing that I believe is important, but I want to get your thoughts on it. What do you think about bar service, and is that important for young lawyers to do? And if so, why? So Harriet, if you don't mind leading off. And then we'll go from there.
Incredibly important. You can be doing things with the best of the best if you're working with the Bar Association, and it's just essential, in my view, for lawyers to participate in one or more bar associations.
Bar associations have resources, they have time, they have talent, they have innovators that are drawn to the work that they do, and they have the ability to convene. So when you're trying to figure out how to solve a problem, getting the best and the brightest in one room to talk about that and brainstorm a solution is the way to go. And that is the kind of the framework that is, I think, provided by bar associations, local, state, national, around an issue. And so, yes to bar service, yes to involvement in young lawyer associations, senior lawyer associations, and every association of lawyers in between, because that's where you will get power, influence, and resources in order to do the kind of problem solving that needs to be done.
So it's an obvious yes, but also think of bar associations, kind of where Judge Livingston was headed, in some ways as affinity groups. Like, for example, when I was a young lawyer, as part of the Young Lawyers group, but right now I'm the chair of the ABA's Hispanic Commission. And so I think over the years, I've seen where I'm able to do all the things that they're talking about, but also feed some other passions that are specific to me or maybe specific to my community. So in our case, the Hispanic Commission, our role is to help Hispanic lawyers in the field and also the Hispanic community. So your bar service, it goes back to what we said before, which is find it a way to be part of your passion, and you will absolutely love doing it. You won't see it as I got to go to this bar meeting at 5. It won't be that. It'll be, okay, great. I'm going to see so-and-so at 5, and we're going to figure out how we're going to do this. So that's, as you think of bar associations, think broadly.
Excellent. So, you know, as a group of powerful women lawyer leaders that are on this call, I'm happy to welcome another one, Leah Teague, who just wanted to say a few words to close us out. So.
It is not letting my video go, so you'll hear my voice. I wanted to join just to let each of you know that we have well over 100 in our audience today. That is just fantastic. So thank each of you who are joining us, and thank our wonderful panel. And to our law students and young lawyers, please take to heart these ideas, this conversation. Be intentional about your future. Know that we are privileged to be lawyers and law students in America. And it is our education, our training, and that law degree that you are working towards. It will equip you to make a difference. Our degree gives us the opportunity to influence others. You're going to influence your clients, your peers, your neighbors, organizations, and you will have opportunities to impact your community. So take full advantage of that. Say yes. Look for a way to make a difference. Thank you, our panelists. You are just absolutely incredible. Each of you are women. Each of you is a woman who I admire and respect so greatly for all that you add. And we ask you to keep us in mind and think of us at Baylor Law and how we can better help our students become that complete lawyer, that which you embrace so effectively in your life as you have understood, accepted, and embraced the opportunity to give back and to make a difference. Each of you have lived a full and satisfying life in service to others, and we want our students to emulate you. So thank you again for agreeing to join us. And as always, Dean Rispoli, thank you for all that you do for us and for putting together such a fabulous program today.
Thank you.
With that, we're adjourned. Thank you so much.